Um, so following on, I'm getting responses from people that have been working a program, 12-step program, uh, for a number of years, and having had an initial awakening or something, and they talk about having had that awakening. They then speak of that awakening as something that got lost, and maybe from there they start seeking elsewhere. And yeah, I can understand that in the field of inquiry. This happens a lot, whether you're working the 12 steps or any spiritual practice. But I understand why there is this having a spiritual experience and then losing it. It's very, very common, in fact. Um, before self-realization, in '99 for myself, uh, there were spiritual experiences, but there was not a self-realization in the way that occurred in '99. When that happens, it's quite a final conclusion that the root source of all form or matter or whatever you observe is consciousness. It's impossible not to identify with that. But if you don't have the full awakening, what can happen is you can have a partial glimpse. And this is where something opens up, but it doesn't open up enough for there to be a complete dissolution of attachment to the mind. And as a result, the mind is able to then come back in and take the experience of that awakening. This is quite common. So yeah, and then what happens then is it seems to ramp up the inquiry after that. Once you've glimpsed something transcendental, and what I mean by transcendental is something other than your mental perspective, emotional perspective, physical perspective, thinking perspective. Something opens up and it does glimpse into the non-subjective view of consciousness, then of course you can't then look at yourself and compare it to something that would happen in yourself. This is something completely different. But of course, the mind can come back in and claim. And that's, that the mind is doing what it does because the mind has always become the thing. Whatever you look at is the mind becomes it by being a thought of it. And then from there, the thought of it becomes a word spoken. This is what the mind does. But the mind, as we know, the thought is not the thing. So if you've had an awakening, it's not uncommon, especially working the 12 steps, because the 12 steps are designed for awakening. That's all they're designed for, is for a spiritual awakening, or or a personality shift, to overcome obsession, whatever. So but what I find is it's usually around step, because there are 12 steps, it's usually around step 5 that people have some kind of awakening. Okay. The only problem is it's not often pointed out that it's around this time you have an awakening, but it's not uncommon. If in step 4, which is the inventory part of the 12 steps, where you list everything down, all your fears, your resentments, and harms done to others, etc. It's not unusual that, with such an admission of honesty, when you've written it all down and you share it with a sponsor or a spiritual person, or even a professional, it's not unusual for some type of dissolution to occur, some kind of holding on to secrets to fall away, and this in itself is quite an awakening, because in the absence of such a contraction that holds all your secrets, is more of a consciousness that's more liberated. So in step 5, I find that most people do step 5. There is this unbelievable sense of what's the word? I forget the word anyway. Freedom, whatever. There's another word for it, but I can't think of it. Liberation. That's it. That's the word, liberation. There is a sense of liberation, but but at this point, it's not pointed out. So if there are people that are tuning in and they're at step 4, step 5, and they suddenly feel this open awareness, what I would say to you is that is open awareness. It's got nothing to do with your thoughts, your mind, your body, or anything. And you've just been released from your attachment to the mind, because your admission of honesty has got rid of that attachment to the mental and emotional possession of the body, maintaining secrets, whatever. I'm probably not making it sound right. It gets a bit too technical, but what's happening for you now is you've just got this open awareness. And what I would say is enjoy that, and identify yourself as that, because what that is conscious contact. Okay. And that's a really important part of the program. And it's this conscious contact from step 5 that then becomes a step 6. It becomes the willingness, the willingness to remain honest, to remain at the root of self, others, and what is in a likeness of God, as in terms of non-locality, So there we are. So or what happens is you can often lose it. You can lose that by not realizing that's the opening, and then you go back into the habit of the mind, which is what's next, and then you go into step 6 as, how do I do step 6? How do I do step 7? And this is where then step 6 and 7 become the steps that are quite forgotten, quite elusive, and no one really knows what they're about. But what they're really about is the fruition of step 4 and 5. It's that open honesty that can relate from its own non-locality. That's step 6 and 7. So you've got to recognize this in step 5. So if you've had a kind of awakening, the way to keep it is to know what that is and to love it. Love it more than you. It's at the root source of you. So it's more real than you. It's more honest. And this is where, step 5 is that opening of honesty in God, ourself, and another human being. It's very interesting. Anyway, I hope you find this video helpful. Do leave comments if you want me to explore any other aspect of that. I can always do that.